The world we perceive is vibrant, bustling, and seemingly real. But according to Master WaXhira and the teachings of the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, much of what we think of as reality is, in fact, a grand illusion, falsehoods that borrow their existence from something else. This profound insight urges us to look beyond the superficial layers of life and recognize the deeper truths of existence. Falsehood defined. Borrowed existence. WaXhira teaches that falsehood is anything that derives its existence from something else. For example, consider a person who is deeply in debt but projects an image of wealth. Are they truly rich? Or someone who believes they are successful solely because others label them as such? Does external validation equate to genuine accomplishment? These are examples of borrowed realities, illusions that depend on external circumstances rather than intrinsic truth. True richness, true success, and true reality come from within. They are independent of the world's fleeting judgments and perceptions. The borrowed world. A product of the five senses, the Brotherhood explains that the external world as we know it borrows its existence from our five senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Without these senses, the world would lose its form and meaning. A person who is deaf cannot hear music. For them, the world of sound does not exist. A person without sight cannot perceive color, shapes, or light, and thus their reality is shaped differently. Even smell, taste, and touch, while vital, are entirely dependent on the physical senses that bring them to our awareness. Now consider this. Without the senses, the external world as we know it would dissolve into nothingness. What we call reality is, therefore, deeply subjective and limited by the tools through which we experience it. It's a role of the mind. The interpreter of senses. While the senses bring information, the mind is the interpreter. Without the mind, the impressions gathered by the senses would mean nothing. Imagine being asleep in a room filled with noise, light, and activity. The senses continue to function, but without the mind's active engagement, no impressions are made, and the external world ceases to exist for you. The mind is the processor of sensory data, but it too is not the ultimate source of reality. It operates in layers of thought and perception, influenced by conditioning, memory, and illusion. Consciousness. The source of all reality beyond the senses and the mind lies the true source of existence: consciousness. Without consciousness, neither the mind nor the senses would have any function or meaning. Consciousness is the light that illuminates our thoughts, perceptions, and the external world. What is the ultimate witness to everything we experience? The Brotherhood teaches that consciousness is the only true reality. It is unchanging, eternal, and independent of the external world. To recognize consciousness as the foundation of existence is to transcend the illusions of the senses and the mind, and to step into the truth of your infinite nature. Living beyond the illusion, WaXhira often reminds us that the outside world is not the ultimate reality. Success, wealth, and even physical existence are borrowed concepts, created through the interplay of senses, the mind, and consciousness. To free yourself from the falsehoods of life, you must look within. Understand that. True wealth comes from recognizing your infinite, divine nature, not material possessions. True success is a measure of inner growth, not external applause. True reality is rooted in consciousness, the source from which everything else derives. By transcending the limitations of the senses and the mind, and by embracing the truth of consciousness, you can awaken to the eternal truth of who you really are. With light, wisdom, and boundless love, WaXhira, founder and Grand Master, Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood,